Will it be possible for Luther, Benji, Grace, Paris, Kittredge, General Sidney, Admiral Neely, Captain Bledsoe, Erica Sloan, Briggs, William Donlow to defeat Gabriel and the Entity? It's impossible. Impossible without Ethan Hunt, that is. Mission Impossible. Final Reckoning. Ethan Hunt and the IMF team are at it again. They continue their search for the terrifying AI known as the Entity. It's infiltrated intelligence networks all over the globe, with the world's governments and mysterious ghosts from Ethan's past on their trail. Joined by new allies and armed with the means to shut down the Entity for good, Ethan is in the race against time, a race against all odds to prevent the world as we know it from changing forever. With only days left before the Entity launches a global nuclear strike, Ethan convinces Sloan to let him act independently to locate the secret Russian sub, Sevastopol, that sank a dozen years ago. So Ethan's team travels to St. Matthew's Island in the Bering Sea, home to a Cold War-era sonar array that detected the sinking sub. With fire all around, Donlow transmits the coordinates to the team with just seconds left. And just as Ethan's plan is starting to unfold perfectly, surviving all odds, he has Gabriel and the Entity right where he wants them. Kittredge and Briggs show up and spoil his plans. Is it possible to recover? Or will they all die a horrible death by nuclear explosion? Hey, it's Matt here from Matty's Movie Mix. Up next is the Conversation podcast that Tyler and I had about Mission Impossible 8, Final Reckoning. Thanks for joining us. Here we are, number 8, Final Reckoning, go!
The end is here.
Really?
I wish.
Spoilers, by the way, friends. Hey, there's no chance we're going to even try not to do spoilers here.
No, you can't.
No.
What a nostalgia film.
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of all the exposition.
Yeah. Did you watch or listen to any other reviews or anything?
Not yet.
Okay. I did this morning.
Yeah.
And I normally don't. I'll watch or listen to them after we record.
Right.
But I was like, I want to listen to a couple of them. Yes. That was the big thing. Like, everybody, almost all the critics were saying there's too much exposition in here. Yeah.
I think, for me, it does kind of a disservice to the franchise, because we know about all those moments, and if you do it once, fine. Like, at the beginning, I was like, good. Well, let's get done with it right away in the beginning.
Yeah, in all fairness, though, there's a lot of comments or people that would comment back that said, hey, we've not seen any of the other ones, and so that worked for them. Right?
Yeah, but if you think about watching this film again,
oh yeah,
it's going to be so hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a lot of these other Mission Impossibles, you can watch it, and a lot of them are standalone films.
Yeah.
Like even the one previous to this, we're going to rank them all.
Yeah.
Like I'd watch that one by itself. It doesn't have a full ending.
Correct.
But from point A to point Z is entertainment. I enjoy it.
Yep.
Versus this is like, if I want to watch the finale to get like the full circle, but it's hard because it's you have to work through a lot to get through it.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. But it's also a movie that you can watch and not watch any of the others.
Yeah.
I mean, you can.
Yeah. It allows you to do that.
It totally allows you to do that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some fans of just this movie, just this film, that are not going to be or have ever seen any of the others. Because when you think about that, 30 years, that's your lifetime.
It is.
That's your whole lifetime.
Right.
Like, you were barely a 2-year-old kid, right? 96, so yeah.
That would have been 2, yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I still think, like, it's like when you watch the Harry Potter series. Like, I wouldn't expect, like, if your first one's the last one,
No, right, but I'm saying that I think they did it because there's a whole new generation that will watch this film and go out to theaters that have zero knowledge of any of the others.
Yeah.
Or very little.
The Venn diagram to me would be small. Like to watch this one and at least not watch Dead Reckoning.
No, that's fair, but they did a good enough job explaining like the exposition so that you wouldn't have to and you wouldn't be lost.
Right. I don't know. Like there's franchises like Fast and the Furious kind of where I feel like you have the fandom that enjoys and you're always looking to seek ways to get more audience to watch your film.
Yeah.
But it's kind of so in video games. This is why I'll tie it in is Zelda. There's Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
Breath of the Wild came out first, and Tears of the Kingdom is considered a sequel. In the video game franchise, often if the first one does super, super well, the sequel can do just as well, but it's rarely going to surpass the original because most people are going to play the first one, and the buy-in to get into the second one is harder because people feel like they would have to have prior knowledge of the previous game.
Right.
It's kind of me like this and this of like, I don't know how you're right. And I'm not a general audience, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
What would be good about this film? Maybe they do a cut where they just take out all the exposition.
I would definitely not. I would be not surprised whatsoever if that happened in like a Blu-ray edition or something like that. If there's physical media.
Yeah.
So there's an estimated budget of $400 million.
Yep.
And I believe that estimated budget is based on all the advertising and stuff as well.
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
Yeah. So it's grossed 206 so far million. Yeah. So they're halfway there. They're just over a week into it.
Yeah.
What's your viewpoint on that?
It's going to, I think, drop significantly.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll make it to 400.
Yeah.
Because as I was watching trailers even for this film, like there's movies week after week at this point.
Oh yeah, it's
like
good ones.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And we were talking last week with like because Lilo and Stitch also came out this weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like
did not make it to that. Might have made it if the schedule was normal.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
that's
no.
on me.
I
did a double
just giving
feature.
you crap.
Yeah. And so movie pacing is always interesting to me when they decide to like, let's just do these at the same time. And granted, it's different studios, it's different marketing teams that are kind of tying it all together. Like, hey, let's have it this weekend. And there's obviously some weekends that are better than others.
Certainly, Lilo and Stitch though made sense Memorial Weekend because there's more kids.
Honolulu, and it's summer vibes.
Right, more kids that are off, all those things. So obviously, it's more of a kid movie.
Right.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, it is. Surprisingly, kid humor, which is always one of my favorite forms of humor.
For sure.
No, this is summer blockbusters. Typically, how these Mission Impossible films.
Yeah.
And we're not quite to summer.
Right. The unofficial kickoff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
What are your overall thoughts?
Well, I would agree the exposition is not any good. I think that we would view it a little bit differently, though, if we hadn't just watched and reviewed all the others. Yeah. I think that puts a different perspective on it because we're so fresh.
Yeah.
We're not, we didn't see, the first one 29 years ago when it was released or whatever. And some people, that's the case.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's good, bad, or in between yet. I'll get to that. But I am saying that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
That people who have watched this franchise probably didn't watch them more than once.
Yeah.
And certainly didn't watch many of them or any of them recently.
Right. I think I would have, if we didn't have the podcast, didn't review all 8 films, I think I still probably would have watched at least Dead Reckoning again going into it.
I think that's a natural thing to do.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that like we talked about when we did Dead Reckoning originally, I'm like, they're not going to release, we both said it, but they're not going to release this fast enough.
No.
They need to release it. They need to do a maybe late spring release and a late summer release or something that same year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
On films like this.
Yeah.
You could have cut out an hour of this film
100%.
and had two really. I think you would have had a really, really, really good, two-parter there. So that's my opinion.
Do you think they felt like they had to do all the exposition, or was it?
I guarantee you they added a lot of that in because it took so long to get.
But I feel like some films at the end, like it's a big franchise, Fast 10 I think is going to do, or Fast whatever is going to be whatever they decide to release part 2 of whatever, maybe part 3, where you get into a franchise that's been around for 30 years, the nostalgia biting I think kicks in no matter what, where people feel like they have to let's make this super sentimental and do all these flashbacks, connections. Does it add to the story? Probably a little bit, but they're doing it more so of like a memorial versus building the film.
Yeah, and I I agree 100% on that, but we look at it differently.
That's true.
Seriously, because most people don't collect films and watch films often. They'll go to the theater, say 6 times a year.
Right.
And maybe watch a movie or something on TV.
Yeah.
But other than that, movie-wise, they're not watching that many movies.
That's true.
And so I think that I think it's a difficult balance then when you're making a film that you have a 30-year beginning to end, which did this actually end even? No. That's something I was kind of disappointed in, honestly. And so I think that when you waffle it, as some say,
waffling.
that you take a very different kind of thing and say, okay, thanks for adding this in because I wanted to understand it.
Yeah.
Where we've just watched all of them within weeks.
Yeah, what a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, right. So from that perspective, if you compartmentalize it, you take maybe not your average moviegoer, but a little bit below average moviegoer, and you're looking at it from a very different window.
That's true.
And so that's how I kind of
viewed
it from the perspective of why they added a lot of that in. I personally didn't like it.
Yeah.
I did understand it.
Yeah. What did you think of some of the stunts that happened in this film?
Oh, they're very realistic.
Yeah.
They went a little far.
They ramped it up a little bit more than I was expecting. Like, the series has always been kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Ethan's been hanging from an airplane before. Like, it's not...
We've even made comments about, they have to get into territory that's now really unrealistic.
Yeah.
And they started to do that, too, through some of it we've already talked about in other podcasts. But but they definitely went there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Which, we predicted, but it was still hard to watch.
Yeah.
Made me a little sad.
Yeah. In the technology with that diving suit and things to kind of justify how you were going to humanly be able to do this and possibly live.
Yeah.
Even though the chances of that survival was, 1%.
Impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
And things like that. I mean.
And you knew he was going to take it off.
Oh,
you knew
yes.
Exactly. This is going to get in my way.
The first time that that I knew that suit was coming off was when they had him on the treadmill in his boxer brief things or whatever with nothing else.
Yeah.
He's jogging on that treadmill. I'm like,
crazy.
He's taking it off.
Yeah.
He's 63-year-old or 2 or whatever he is, showing off his 8-pack.
Oh, gotta love it.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's I'm a little bit curious and questioning how to rate some of these. It's going to
go up and down quite a bit for some of the stuff that actor chemistry would be one that's like, who are we acting with? Like,
right.
Yeah,
exactly. And so as I'm viewing it, I'm thinking of all the normal things I'm thinking, and I'm like, this is tough. Like, how do we do that? Or how do I do that? And how do we talk about it? And then cinematography as well it's one of the things too that is like it's consistently good.
Yeah.
But it is very, all the different locations
Yep.
makes things look different. Where's the CGI? Did it look good? And then we've got overall entertainment and things, which is a fairly easy one
Yeah.
to do generally.
Yeah.
But then we have all the exposition stuff in here that we
Yeah.
talked about that neither of us liked.
Yeah.
So where do we go?
I think we start talking about the actors
Okay.
because I think that's going to get us to the story,
Yeah.
which leads to everything else. I had issues with the main villain, not just the entity.
So, right, and they kind of switched the entity to the main antagonist to Gabriel in this.
Yeah.
He's now the villain.
Well, they're both the villain.
Well, but Gabriel's the head. Like, that's what they're concentrating on.
Well,
The entity was also scared of Gabriel at this point.
That's where some of this, I think, the struggle is they were focusing on two different things.
Yeah. Oh, they were
Like, it would have been almost nice just kill Gabriel off in the first film, and let's just focus on the entity, because they really could have done that.
The thing is, I don't think with the way Dead Reckoning went, I don't think it went over very well with the entity being with all that
It got a
time
little real.
period. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it really screened out very well. Screen tested,
Yeah. Yeah, which is unfortunate. 'Cause
Yeah,
that was like what enticed me of like, this is
totally. Yeah, and I
plausible.
didn't like how they switched it
Yeah.
more towards Gabriel,
yeah.
personally.
And yeah, the entity Gabriel turned on the entity and
Yeah.
failed it, so
Yeah.
now they're two severed ties.
So let's start with one of the actors who's been there from the beginning, not Tom Cruise, but
Spoiler.
Ving Rhames. Let's start with him.
Spoiler, he dies.
Luther, why is he sick?
I don't know. He
'Cause
went to hiding. That's the last thing I knew.
That he was gonna figure out this
That
entity
and the source code and all that stuff.
and so, what
All of a sudden,
I was the whole time, man, I was thinking, what am I missing? What did I miss in the other films? Like, why is he sick?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't. I'm an idiot, but
Yeah.
thankfully
We're
I'm-
both idiots. I mean, there's a good chance. We talked about how I noticed we had a different table.
Yes, you're very observant.
Very observant. We talked about before last week if he was even going to be in this film
Right.
and have screen time.
Right.
I was like, yeah, he's going to be in it. They've shown shots with him.
Yep.
But I'm on your end at this point of like, I almost wish he wasn't in this film.
I agree.
They-
There was have him do the voiceover stuff.
Yeah.
That he programmed that. Get rid of him altogether.
Could have been like almost, what's it called in Iron Man? The AI. Jarvis.
Oh
Bit of
yeah.
Jarvis type thing where like
Sure.
this is kind of like the voice like
Yeah.
helping maneuver, but you don't really ever see it.
Yeah. That's a good point. So yeah, I would have preferred that from the first part of that acting chemistry that went on. Yeah. That was disappointing.
There was too many actors. I think they pulled it off in Dead Reckoning, but then they kept Paris for whatever reason. I think she should have just stayed dead.
Mostly dead.
Mostly dead. The only reason I felt like they kept her was because she was the only source that tied her to
Gabriel. Right.
But they could have gone a variety of different ways. I almost wish the black market lady made an appearance, and that's where they got the information.
Oh yeah, I was wondering why she didn't.
Yeah.
I was very surprised actually.
Yeah, I was very surprised that she wasn't in this
That
film.
was it Fantastic Four? Is that why she wasn't in this?
It's not like she's ever had. Rebecca Ferguson left.
Right.
She's always had more significant roles in these films, so it's not
sure.
just like she's in it for 10 minutes and leaves.
Right.
But the Black Widow character is like she's usually only in it for
Isn't the white?
Alana, is that what her name is?
Yeah.
She's only in it for usually 10 to 15 minutes most.
Right.
And that could have clearly been like just been exposition. She's not a fighter of like, hey Ethan, I got some information for you.
Right.
Keep Paris dead so you don't have to worry about any of those dynamics.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
it's tough.
it's a lot of characters.
What'd you think? Let's go to Donalo.
To who?
Donalo. Donalo?
The guy who is actually
William Donalo?
the guy who is actually the son of
No, that is Briggs.
Briggs. That's right.
No.
I'm terrible with names.
Nick Offerman, that was fun to have him in here, but
Like, he was another character where I wish he didn't. Like, I like Nick Offerman. I enjoy him being in films, but his role was completely unnecessary.
right. Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Plot twist.
I mean, Hayley Atwell was, she's good.
Yeah.
But Rolf Saxon is his name, William Donalo. What'd you think of that appearance?
Oh, that was kind of fun.
The nostalgia, the
his,
legacy.
His is the one where I was like, it's kind of fun that they kept him on too long.
For sure.
Like, I didn't like that he and his wife somehow was like, oh, yeah, we'll go with.
Right.
That makes no sense to me.
Right.
But it was kind of fun to see, like, hey, like, you kind of ruined my, like, some perspective ruined my life, but really, you allowed me to have my life.
Yeah.
So that was, I did enjoy that, but then again, when they kept him too long, I was like, that's
Right.
silly.
Yep.
Again, that could have been another where Ving Rhames came back. Like, don't kill his character off right away.
Yeah.
Like, kill him off there. Like, if you wanted to have him dead so he's not in it again.
Right.
Yeah, have the bomb go off, because they talked about, like,
10 seconds.
10 seconds,
Yeah.
one of us is going to make it. Not in the stupid container that makes no difference.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than he saved the city.
Yeah. So what?
And Ethan.
And Ethan. Yeah. But Ethan wouldn't have had been saved if he didn't run back to Luther.
Right. Well, unless it was unless the actual nuclear
that's true.
part went off.
Yeah.
But
Details.
yeah, I know. It's yeah, a lot of
characters.
and then they brought in the Admiral. Was it the Admiral? Yeah. Admiral Neely. Hannah
Waddingham?
Yeah. So from of course
Lasso.
she's well known for Ted Lasso.
And Game of Thrones. Shame.
What?
She's in Game of Thrones as well.
She is?
She's the shamer. But, yeah, I like her in
I
Ted
guess
Lasso
I
more.
missed that.
There's that scene where is it Cersei is walking down naked and they're yelling out shame.
Wait, there's nudity in that?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is HBO is not normally known for.
No.
So they really branched out there.
Yeah, there we go. 8 episodes of Game of Thrones.
I told you.
Look at that. You demand.
Tyler don't lie. Maybe misinformed.
She was in Les Mis. She's a factory woman in Les Mis.
Yeah.
Huh. Good for her. Yeah. So I like that. Her edition, I
Yep.
guess, is where I'm headed.
But it was also light.
Yeah.
Like, it would have made sense if she was maybe in different films where it was kind of like more of a callback tie-in versus like
Yeah.
May 22nd, 1996.
Yeah.
There's obviously things that go into that for the viewing purposes, but we don't know anything about her.
Right. No. And which, well, I'll get into that later, I guess. So actor chemistry, you have, these added in characters. We don't know enough of their history. The movie's already too long, so some of that kind of stuff is really distracting.
Yeah.
From, I think, basically what I'm saying is that they've thrown so many actors in there, even though some of them are fun to have in there.
Yeah.
It's really confusing, and the story's already too long, so it makes it like a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
To get to appreciate who they are, why
Yeah.
they're there, all that kind of stuff. They just didn't do that well.
I like the submarine captain.
Yes,
He was
they
fun.
did a good job with him.
Yeah.
Very direct, which is good.
Yeah.
That's how they established
And
his
he's not
person.
I mean, Hannah Waddingham is not really probably a well-known actor unless you've seen Ted Lasso.
Right.
And to me, this is my own bad. But, like, it helps when you don't have as name-brand actors of, like, oh, this person's going to do something later because they're a big deal. Like, they're a big actor to get into this. They're not just going to do the small little section. Versus, like, oh, we don't know them that well, so, like, it's a dot to connect point A to point B
Yep.
to point C.
Yep. So actor chemistry for me is unfortunately low for this.
Yeah.
It's a 3.5, just because it was too distracting to add in all these, too distracting and confusing to add in all these different characters and stuff like that. That I just didn't. It was too hard to follow and appreciate who was already in existence.
Gabriel goes a little too much of an insane professor at the end.
Sure.
That beginning of the film, or Dead Reckoning, he's pretty cool, level-headed. And it makes sense that his character twists a little bit because he gets made uncomfortable, which makes people act differently versus like, I'm safe behind the entity.
Sure. So, but they did. So they made the point of when Ethan went into that container to talk to the entity.
Yeah.
They made a very specific point. It changes you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where they justify in the storyline Gabriel's far left turn.
But like, I even think about the first scene in this film compared to the last scene, and there's no progression of like getting to like you see him go slightly more and more unhinged as he gets to the end game. To me, it's like beginning he's still level-headed. Even at that point, he doesn't have the entity to protect him. It's been 6-7 months from what they build up from the difference from the Dead Reckoning to Final Reckoning, and you don't see those like pin drops of like, oh man, this guy's going to go nuts. Like Two-Face in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
You see the progression of like, yep, he's a level-headed lawyer, DA, starts making some bad decisions. You see he relies on different things, and by the end, he gets to a point of a villain, and that makes sense because there's that whole arc.
Yeah.
Versus this, it seems like really level-headed at the beginning, and then just absolutely senile at the end of like, ha ha ha. He's like just waving the knife everywhere, like just going insane. So I gave it a 3.7.
Okay.
3.6. It's 3.6.5. I really like Ethan Hunt. There's these characters that have been built. Simon Pegg, still super solid. Like when those two are together, like it builds the like seriousness, but also like some comedic relief at the same time. Yeah. Because they have that chemistry. But like you said, they're bringing in all these different characters that are just like, make it shorter, cut them.
I think I talked about in one of the, maybe it was even in Dead Reckoning, that I'm telling you they're going to spin this off. Yeah. Didn't I talk about that?
Yeah.
And I was thinking it anyway.
Yeah, because we were talking about like when they're going to make the next Mission Impossible.
Yeah, and I said I think they really left it to spin it off with some of those characters, including Paris.
Yeah, that's the only reason you would keep her alive.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how the next couple years unfolds with the Mission Impossible world. Cinematography, go.
It looked great.
It did.
I loved looking at this when it came to like, I'll say the flashbacks were fun to watch with how they did it. Made a lot of sense. The AI entity. They spent a little too much time with like the blue voice, like when he goes into like the Dr. Doom device, is what it looked like when he put the mask on. But it looks great.
There's no complaints for me
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Didn't like the underwater scenes, but it looked cool when he's floating up. Makes no sense in the context of the film, but he's there, hurtled over, and you got the nice bright blue glacier.
You're right.
Looks great. The two airplanes, the dynamic, the contrast, great. Scene went way too long.
Way too long. Oh,
not a cinematography.
Gosh.
That's a story.
Yeah. No, way too long. What's your rating?
I gave it a 4.4.
Okay. Yeah. I'm 4.5.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
That's what sucks.
Yeah, it does. I agree. I'm surprised, honestly, like I talked about earlier, what the budget was versus what it's done. I'm surprised it didn't do better. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Right.
Obviously. But
it's a well-known franchise.
Right.
It's the ending of the series.
I'm really surprised it didn't do better.
The submarine scene, to me, was also anticlimactic.
Predictable.
It was very predictable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't predictable. Like, you would expect one of those things to go off. None of the bombs went off. And you don't see
that's not really how they work, though.
I know.
I mean,
but this is Mission Impossible.
Maybe
they don't
in the
live
50s
by typical
or something.
physical.
Yeah.
But like Ethan having like the Russians like coming at the end of like because they were supposed to be on the tail the whole time, and it would have been fun to have that like they got away, but they also sent somebody.
I was expecting that.
Yeah.
I was expecting that the Russians would send somebody, but I suppose then that would sort of negate what that special suit, one of a kind suit, blah blah blah, was too.
The Russians had a second key.
I know,
They
right?
It's not like information stays hidden.
So yeah.
I will say the other thing when it comes to actor chemistry. What's his face? That was from the first film. That's now in this film again, and it was in the last film. That negotiated with. I'm gonna get so much hate for not being able to remember his name.
Negotiated?
You know the one that always like we never know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Like
you mean Kittredge?
Kittredge.
Okay.
I liked him. He's still just
yeah.
Like,
for sure.
I don't think I've ever seen a character as well done as his. Because like even now I can tell you, is he fighting against Ethan or is he fighting for Ethan?
Right.
Like I don't know. I could see it go any way.
Yeah, for sure. 1,000,000%. Totally agree with that.
The other thing, sorry, we never actually talked about the one guy being Jim Parsons' son.
Jim Phelps?
Jim Phelps. Sorry, not Sheldon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where are they going with it?
Yeah.
Again, that's the question. What's going to be spun off?
Yeah. Because it wasn't necessary.
It was not necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, other than some sort of future whatever they're thinking, which would not make any sense to me.
Ethan brought up the fact of like, this is you're doing because I know who you are. Like I know you're
Right.
his son. It was like, no, that has nothing to do with this.
Right.
And that was genuinely the case. So it's like, what the heck is
But
the point?
was it?
Because
they say the words, but he's still going after Ethan. Like,
yeah.
And his partner had switched over to Ethan's side earlier.
Yeah.
In this film, and he sort of was questioning it in Dead Reckoning, and so there's that. But so I don't know. That was just a weird. I was like, what?
Yeah,
that's dumb. I was, however, wondering why they had him have that hair.
Yeah.
Now that makes sense.
It all makes sense. It all ties together.
So
rabbit's foot even. It all ties together.
That's the rabbit's foot though. That's not believable. Who would believe that?
That's insane.
That's dumb. That was dumb.
That's retcon. Overall entertainment.
I was entertained. I really was. I was happy that this finally came out. Mm-hmm. I was not happy or entertained by how open they left the ending. I was expecting a No Time to Die kind of ending.
Well, here's the thing. Even John Wick 4, he dies at the end, but they're making a fifth one.
Well, it's Ballerina.
No, I think they're in the talks to actually make a fifth one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. What is death in a franchise when you want to make money?
I know.
It'll be interesting to me, though, because Tom Cruise does genuinely care about films.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
You see that in everything he makes.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
And so he's going to be hard. The Mission Impossible. Like we talked about kind of last week, even of like Mission Impossible at this time is synonymous with Tom Cruise. Like he's the one that produces them. He's the one that oversees everything. I don't see him coming back to stay on with Mission Impossible because he's going to want to work on other things.
You would think so, but I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
He is getting older, plain and simple.
Yeah.
There's no way that he can physically keep doing this for very long. Not at that level.
Well, even like the bike stunt he did in the last movie.
Right.
Like how in the world?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I did like the plane scene when he's like hanging off on the side and his hair's and it looks like he has this like this nice bow cut from the 90s. And I was like, yes.
It was
That's Tom Cruise.
It was not entertaining to see him have long hair again, though.
No, and they even made the comment of, "Oh, I like your hair long."
I know.
Like,
no,
false.
No,
you're a liar.
Yeah,
that's like
lies.
That's fourth wall breaking crap of like you're just saying that to make fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I was entertained. It's too long for sure. Scenes are drawn out too long. Exposition is too long. I'll be a lot less entertained in the next viewing.
It's gonna be so hard to rewatch.
It's gonna be hard to watch the second time. But for the first time, I was entertained. They did have a lot here. It kept you very engaged the whole time. I know a lot of people didn't like the editing that they did in this. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
This is a different kind of storytelling.
It is.
And I understand that.
Yep.
And so to not be overly critical of it, I think you can be, but then you're not being honest.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not being honest then. Because there's a lot of fun parts in here.
There is.
And a lot of things that make a lot of sense from an entertainment value perspective.
Yep.
So how do you want to look at it? Do you want to look at it from a storytelling, like, is this by the numbers? Well, no, because that's why it's successful.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible became successful because they didn't do it by the numbers.
Right.
And so when you look at it from that perspective, for me, that's one of the reasons I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It wasn't by the numbers.
Right.
It wasn't done the way that people thought it should be done. Is that going to mean it's going to make enough money? Maybe not.
That's okay. It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
I think in the long run it'll be fine.
Yeah.
As far as they're not going to lose money on it, but certainly they need it to really do what it needs to do for theatrical release, though. But I can foresee where they would re-release this in a different edition, certainly in 4K or whatever, Blu-ray kind of thing.
Yeah. Give me that
Make
black
a lot
box.
of money on it.
Yeah.
Maybe even re-release it in theaters in a different edition.
Yeah, 10-year anniversaries and stuff
for
like
sure. But for the short term here, it'll be interesting to see how it really does. I think most people that understand what it is and what they're trying to do will be very, very entertained by it. But the length is hurting it.
that. Yep. 3 hours, man.
Yeah. So I think if they have a film like that, they should do like 60 minutes of just
Straight.
go.
Yeah.
Like hard go.
Which they did in Dead Reckoning.
Yes. But then you have some sort of intermission
Yeah.
if you're going to have a 3-hour film.
Yeah.
Like, don't do 90 minutes.
That's when Tom can run just for 5 minutes. We don't know where he's going.
Right.
He's just running.
That would be funny.
That's the 5-minute intermission.
Yeah.
It's like The Sound of Music when they have like the intermission at the beginning. The middle, it's just words. Now, our intermission is just watching Tom Cruise run from spot one. He doesn't take a plane. He just runs from Russia to Alaska.
Right.
And we're ready.
Which would be the other way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd go south, technically, I think. From Russia to Alaska.
Well, I was thinking of like the Bering Strait.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But anyway.
Sorry. Geography, man.
Maybe I'm mentally picturing it wrong too, but it doesn't matter. No, that would be funny. So I think then that next couple of hours will not feel as crazy.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion. Anyway, wrapping it up for me. This is high on the entertainment scale for the first viewing.
Okay.
4.7.
Okay.
Almost a perfect score. If it was 20 minutes shorter, it would maybe be about a perfect score because they did do it well.
See, and some of the stuff that was drug out did a lot for me to like take it off the entertainment value. And so like I fully understand what you're saying of like they do everything right when it comes to the action scenes.
Honestly, I think that's an age difference.
Yeah.
Between you and I.
Yeah. There very well could be.
I agree with you though.
Yeah.
If this would have been 2.5 hours, cut, some of those scenes down.
Yeah.
1,000,000% it would have been way better.
Yeah.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. So I give it 3.9.
Okay. Really? Under a 4. Wow.
Under a 4. I was pretty excited for this film.
Yeah.
Because it's the finale conclusion, and so
though?
This is where I get the emotional side of like, I think about is it really? I hope it is, because if it is not the finale, a lot of the stuff that happened in this film will be undercut for me.
Oh yeah.
And so there's no point to do a lot of the exposition of like, oh yeah, actually we're doing a spinoff. We're going to do more. And it's like, well, you ruined this film then, like even more so than what it could have been. And so, I mean, we talked about, there's just a lot of stuff that just deterred me from this. I would have wished it was more direct of like focusing on the entity versus, there was just too many characters, too much going on. Or yeah, if it was tight, concise. I just got done watching Dead Reckoning. To me, that is a great film from beginning to end.
Yeah, it is.
And so like even if I compare a movie within the same franchise, it's not as good to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my
Makes
3-9.
sense. Makes
And I
sense.
know going in the future, like unless they do a cut where they cut out that exposition, it's going to be hard for me to want to watch again.
Yeah.
And
I
carve out
do.
3 hours.
I will view it very, very differently the second time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I've said that many
Yeah.
times here. It will be a different thing the second time around for me.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. So yeah, I agree with that.
It was also so silly when the plane and, my gosh, words are just rough for me. The main villain that wasn't the
Gabriel.
entity, Gabriel was like, oh, but only one of us have a parachute. Jumps off, just smashes his head, and then Ethan goes in. Oh, look! Conveniently, there's another parachute in here,
Which would
makes
be
sense.
Which would be the case on an old plane.
Yeah, makes
like
sense
that.
in the context.
There would be one strapped in there for sure. Yeah.
But like, for him to make that phrase of like, "Oh, I got the parachute."
Yeah.
I mean, it does show his ignorance of like he probably doesn't know like he can drive the plane apparently, but he doesn't know the context of like, oh yeah, there's 2 parachutes per cockpit.
Yeah.
Or
Plane.
whatever they're called.
Because there's 2 cockpits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Hey, let us know what you think of actually the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Or
1 through 8.
Right. Or just leave us a comment. Tell us how great something is. Because it's not us.
Tell us how you feel about marshmallows.
See you next time.
Look at you be tight at the end.
Boom.
Boom.